Michael Brantley's hitting 346 with 2 homers, and Correa's hitting 340 with 3 homers versus left-handers. Those are the guys you really want to key in on when you see left-handed pitchers against the Astros, okay? Now, the righties is a different story because the averages aren't quite as high, but the power numbers are pretty impressive. So when I look at versus righties, George Springer's hit 319 with 12 homers, okay? Right. Not for Alvarez and not for Riley. Those two guys aren't look. You could still say a rookie's a rookie. Those guys aren't rookies. That's my only thing. That guy, Jordan Alvarez, woke up a grown ass man. I mean, you look at him at the plate. That bat looks like a toothpick. And he does, you get some of these big guys and they're like lanky and they can't handle themselves. This guy's smooth and he's fluid up there. Anyway, I regress. Versus right-handed pitchers. We'll get to that too, Meckard. So the power versus right-handed pitch, which you're just seeing a majority of right-handed pitching anyway, right? So let's just go down through here and talk about these names when it comes to power numbers versus the righties, okay? Again, I mentioned the team leader versus righties is Bregman. He's got 14 homers. He's hitting 263 versus right-handed pitchers. Then you got Springer at 12, who's hitting 319, okay? Then you got Robinson Chirinos, who's having a great year. He's got 10 homers. He's only hitting 236 against the righties. But you know what? You'll take that out of your catcher when he's giving you that kind of power number, okay? Other guys, you got Brantley at 9. You got Correa at 8. You got Reddick's at 7. They mash righties for power. They hit average versus lefties, which is what a good, well-rounded team should do. Okay. Sorry, as I look back through my notes, Carlos Correa, I talked about him being willing to rehab during the All-Star break. If you look at what the Astros have missed. And again, he was injured some last year, right? So his 162 game average, this is Carlos Correa, his 162 game average is a 279 batting average, 29 homers, 92 runs, and 108 RBIs. That's given his injuries. That's given everything. I'm saying that's your floor with Carlos Correa, okay? Now, obviously you're prorating that. Obviously, you have to take out the injury time because you have the counting stats. But if you look at this guy, my point, this is someone you probably want to go out and try and make a trade offer towards because he's getting ready to come back healthy. He was playing well prior to the injury. Go take a shot on Carlos Correa. Okay? Just my thought on it. I really do think that when he comes back, he's going to hit the ground running. The pressure's going to be off him. He's just another bat in that, I say just another. He's obviously one of the best bats in that lineup. But you look at the power around him, he should have productive numbers in the second half of the season, okay? So, let's move on. Let's talk about the Rangers. Probably one, again, at 42 and 36, they're 6.5 games back of the leading Astros. But they're treading water. This is another one of those teams that if you look at their pitching, it's been terrible. It's been absolutely terrible, okay? So they've given up 404 runs this year. 404 runs this year. Now, they've scored 435, which is 30 more than the Astros have scored. And we all know the Astros got a pretty good offense, right? So if you look at Texas, what are they going to do? Because they could be sellers or buyers, right? And if you talk about a young nucleus, okay, they could sell some of these guys and supplement to build for the very near future, okay? So you traded Sin-Soo Choo, who's hit 289. He's got 12 homers. Here's a guy, you could probably get some value out of him. You could probably get a good minor leaguer, maybe even two, for a guy who's hitting 289. He's got 12 homers. There's value in getting rid of, I think, a 32-year-old Sin-Soo Choo. So, I'm not talking about getting rid of Nomar Mazara. I'm not talking about getting rid of Joey Gallo. I'm not talking about getting rid of some of these young guys, but there's some serious value when you look at Hunter Pence and 15 home runs. I know he's injured right now, but if he comes back and shows that he's healthy, teams are going to want that on their team. Okay? So again, when you look at the team breakdowns, where Texas is best in scoring runs. So they're 12th in batting average at 257. They're third in runs at 435 in the major leagues. That's really good. But here's where they don't cut the mustard. They're 21st in ERA with a 4.87 ERA. That's not good, guys. And their whip is even worse. They're 26th with a 1.45. Okay? So, you look at guys like Lance Lynn. You look at guys like Mike Minor. You look at guys like Sampson. These are guys that if you can get any young pitching in return, you do it. Okay? So if I'm Texas, I'm reaching out to the Miami Marlins today, and I'm trying to get one of those pitchers. I'm trying to get one of those young. I'm trying to get Zach Gallen. I'm trying to get Yamamoto. I'm trying to get some of those young pitchers, okay? So I, even though Texas is currently in second place in that division, I look for them to sell because I just don't think they can keep up with two teams in this division, okay? So this week coming up, they're playing at Detroit and at Tampa Bay, who's been slumping. They've got some good matchups. Rangers with helium. Let's talk about Joey Gallo. Returning to the lineup tonight. He's hitting 5th, okay? He's been out since June 1st. Let's all take a look back and let's think about what happened on June 1st. Well, on June 1st, Gallo hit his 17th home run on the day. Led the league at the time, okay? So, when he got hurt, almost a month ago now, he was leading the league in homers. Gallo's hitting 276, guys. Joey Gallo's a career 213 hitter. That's the key to look for. If Gallo comes back and he shows that he can still be pretty selective, he's still going to hit for a little bit of average. You're talking about a breakout year out of this young man. Okay? Joey Gallo is someone who I really think is finally starting to show what he's capable of doing. Now, do I think he's a 276 hitter? Probably not. Do I think he can stay at 260? I think that's possible. Okay? So what that tells me is the rest of the year, if he hits 250, he's still having a breakout year. So just, some things to think about. You might want to throw something out there for Gallo. His power is undeniable. Like I said, 17 home runs. I look for him to get close to 40. If he'd have stayed healthy, 50 is within his range. If you're in a dynasty league, you should be targeting this guy. So, the most interesting team in this division, in my opinion, I'm going to need to speed up a little bit at 7:30, after 7:30, is Oakland Athletics. Now, why do I think the Oakland Athletics are so interesting? Their numbers aren't great, okay? They're 18th in batting average. They're 12th in runs. They're 10th in ERA, and they're 9th in whip. So actually, contrary to popular belief, if you look at it from that perspective, they're a better pitching team than they are a hitting team at this point of the year. Okay, some 80 games in. They're sitting 8 games back of the Astros. But here's the thing. Chris Davis is pretty good at baseball. Matt Chapman is pretty good at baseball. Matt Olson is pretty good at baseball. That's a good core, okay? Now you throw in there a guy like Laureano, a guy like Profar, a guy like Begley. That makes you a pretty legitimate offense. All three of that core have struggled with injuries, with injuries, basically, and have not given you their full capability. They're all young, Davis being the possible exception. They all are going to improve just based on coming back to norm, right? So we talk about positive and negative regression. You look at these guys, they're underperforming across the line. I think that's more to do with their being injured and struggling through rehabilitation as it is to not playing up to their capabilities. So I think all three of these guys will come back to the norm, will come back to their established baseline, and they'll give you better numbers because of it. Okay, so basically that's that. So again, by Chapman, by Olsen, by Davis, all three of those guys are going to have good second halves. Now, let's talk about Ramon Laureano. Ramon Laureano is really an unsung player. There's not a whole lot. I mean, he came up at the end of the year last year. He's got 17 career home runs. But here's a guy at 24 years old who's really starting to prove that he belongs in the majors, that he belongs to be mentioned as one of the leaders of this athletics team. One, because of the defense that he gives you in center field, but also because of the home run power threat that he gives you. He's going to give you, now he's not going to be elite at either, but you'll take 20-20 out of your center fielder every stinking year. Guys, he's going to surpass that easily. He's at 12-9 right now. Right now. So, and he slumped. He did not do great the first part of the year. So, when you look at Ramon Laureano, from May 7th on, 44 games, he's hitting 299. He's got 9 homers, 25 runs, and 25 RBIs. And he's got 6 steals. Yeah, so what, you might say. So let's average that out for 162 games. So if you take that pace over 44 games is a pretty good sample size, right? So you take those 44 games and you make them 163. That 299 average and 9 homers turns into 34 homers. Okay? The 6 stolen bases turn into 23 stolen bases. So I'll ask you guys this. Who out there is turning down a guy who hits 299 with 34 homers and 23 stolen bases? If you do, you're foolish, right? So let's talk about runs and RBIs. 25 runs, 25 RBIs is pretty simple, right? They're both going to be the same. 93 runs and 93 RBIs over the course of 162 years. Now, again, we're talking about roughly a little less than a quarter of the season, right? But I think that's a pretty good sample size, and that it gives you really what you're looking at, okay? So Ramon Laureano is one of those guys who's not widely owned. You might be able to get him in your league. I really look for him to have a big uptick in the second half of the year, okay? So what other, you could really kind of say this about a lot of folks on the Athletics, but what other players have helium on the A's? I think of Matt Olson, right? So Matt Olson, here's a guy who there's no doubt this guy has 40 homer potential. Unfortunate start to the year, he broke a bone in his hand. He missed a good part of the season, and then when he came back, that kind of saps your strength. But if you look back to his last 20 games, okay? So if you look back to his last 20 games, Olson's got a 271 average, 5 homers, 13 RBIs, and 9 runs. So again, we're going to stretch that out. I know 20 is a little bit smaller than 44, but I think it's important because I think it paints the picture that Matt Olson's starting to get healthy, right? So you take those 5 homers